the music.
Yeah. Got the intro. I love the intro music.
Right.
Hey, Alicia. Miss Riddick. Oh, we got 4. I'm about to get started. We got 4. I'm about to get started. Five more and I get started. It's late. What's up, guys? It's Johnnie Finch. I'm coming from Greenville, North Carolina, and I am afraid of what's about to happen right now. I've been highly anticipating talking with this young lady, this legal beast, for about a week now. And last week, we touched on a lot of lawyer issues, but if there's anybody out there with a dream, anybody out there who's thinking about taking that next step, I want you to log off for 1 second, give them a call, tell them to add me on Facebook. I'll go to my Facebook right now and I will add them because they need to hear this story tonight. It's for lawyers. It's for anyone who's kind of stuck in a rut and they're looking to get to the next level. They're thinking that they need a push. This story tonight is going to blow your mind. It's already blown my mind. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen. I literally don't know what this is going to look like. This is going to change my life. This is going to change everybody's life. So I'm going to go back to the musical interlude for about 15 seconds, but call everybody you know. I promise you it's going to change your life. Hey, Jennifer. Let's do it. All right, guys. This is one of those times. This is one of those moments. This is one of these Facebook epic moments. You'll never see this again. There was a lady about 3 or 4 months ago. I was in court, and when she walked in, and all I felt was just like power, like tremendous power. Like it was so much energy, and the energy I really didn't know what was going on. I was just like, what? Who is this lady? Who's this lawyer? You know, people walk into court all the time, and you see them, and I probably see about 120, 130 lawyers a week. But this lady walked in, and I was like, what in the world is the energy coming from this lady? Like, I gotta meet her. She came in, she did her thing. I didn't catch her that day. I'm not even gonna lie. I was a little bit nervous to approach her. I wanted to say something, but I didn't know how to approach her and not be a complete fan. But that's what I wanted to do. So then, about maybe a month later, I had an opportunity to run into her again. One of my good friends from NCCU. He introduced me to her, and she didn't know. I had been hoping to meet this lady. I've been super hoping to meet this lady for so long. Her name is Attorney Branch-Ramadan. And her story, which I'm finding out tonight, is amazing. Good afternoon. Good evening. How are you, Attorney?
I'm great.
Oh, my goodness. Could you please tell the people where you're from?
I'm originally from Chicago. I'm from the Midwest, but I currently live in North Carolina in Franklin County. I do want to apologize that you're going to see some movement in the back because I'm in the car. I'm just leaving a jail visit on an island on the coast. And so I stopped driving to do this interview with you, Mr. Finch, Attorney Finch.
Always giving. Listen, Northeastern North Carolina, you're getting a gift tonight. She was on the clock. She stopped driving to talk with you guys and share with you this story. First off, everybody knows I went to Regent University in Virginia Beach. Great school, but I got to give props where props is due. North Carolina Central University and Durham, North Carolina puts out top-notch lawyers. Every lawyer that I know, that I look up to, that I admire, went to NCCU. I just got to give them props. Regent, I love you. You got my heart. We go hard, but NCCU, every time I see a lawyer and they're doing dynamic things, especially in grassroots, I'm not talking about someone who's aspiring to be, I don't know, go work for GE, Google lawyers. I'm talking about people who are in the community making a difference every day. You're talking about North Carolina Central University. So if you're thinking about going to law school, I'm just going to do a plug for Central right now. You need to go to Central. Okay.
Yes.
I'm back.
I wasn't aware of any other law school.
I can't tell you this. Now, I'm just going to get right to it. Please. How old were you when you went to law? How young were you when you went to law school?
I think it was 36.
36 years old. All right. 36 years old.
I had a great job. Mm-hmm.
Tell me about that.
I had a great job working for the city of Durham. I was a real estate broker, married, 6 children. But that urge to go to law school and be a lawyer just never went away. Yeah, turn it back on. Never went away. So I just I quit my job and I applied for law school, not in that order, but I did eventually have to resign from my job, sadly, and went to law school and never looked back.
Jennifer, you said it. Let's go back just a little bit. When did that urge first start? When did you first know you wanted to be a lawyer?
When you're pleading your case with your parents, as most young people do, make it an aunt or an uncle or a cousin who says, that girl needs to be a lawyer. So you hear that enough times. And my mother mentioned one time, yeah, you should be a litigator. I've heard it from people over the years. I've been an avid reader all of my life. And I started to do some things that probably would tap dance on practicing law without a license back in my 20s. So my friends may be in jeopardy of being evicted from their apartments, or perhaps getting fired from their jobs or suspended from their jobs. And I don't know why I was the go-to person, but I have been that go-to person for quite some time. When different things and policies were in place at work, if people thought they were unfair, they came to me to be the spokesperson or the advocate. And it just sort of always seemed like I had been tap dancing on practicing law without a license, but it always was one of my top 3 possible job possibilities.
Oh my goodness. Okay. So I act like I ignored some fact, even though I didn't, and I'm gonna come back to it. First off, I thought you were 33. First off, 33. I wouldn't have gave you 36. Now, you've been practicing law, what, 6 years now?
7.
7 years now. Okay, we're not gonna do the math on that, but I thought you were 36 today.
46. Thank you.
You mentioned, what did you say? You had one child? Was it
6.
1, 2,
6,
3 children?
6.
4 children? 6 kids.
6.
This was before law school.
Yes.
And you felt the urge.
Yes.
You quit your job.
Yes.
And you went to law school.
Yes.
Without a check.
Yes.
When you quit your job, did you have a check coming in?
Did I have what?
When you quit or retired from your job when you went to law school, were you working at that time?
I did not work. Once I was in law school, no, I didn't work, but I did have money saved.
Okay.
It was a plan. It was not fly by night. It was not an impulse. It was a plan. I'm big on planning. I think really that, you know, the old adage that people hear often, that if you or plan to fail, you know, whatever that is. But it's true. If you fail to plan, then you should plan to fail. I think that is really what it is. And so I did have a plan. I did plan financially. I planned in some other ways. Planned my exit out of public service. I did plan my entrance into private practice, and I've executed that. I had a short-term and long-term goals that I actually wrote down. I shared those with some of my coworkers, and they still use some of the things that I've written down to this day that they've shared with me, and how they've moved on in their professions based on some of the things that I shared with them. So I am a planner. I'm huge on vision boards. I work vision board in the next 2 weekends. So I'm really big on planning.
Okay. Now, let me just tell a little bit about myself. Okay. I have two kids. Both of them are under the age of 2. And I had those kids after I was practicing for about 3 years. Now, I went to law school and it blew my mind. Facebook, I'm going to tell you, it blew my mind. I never seen anything like it. It was one of the greatest experiences I've ever had, but it was the most difficult thing that I've ever done in my life. Now, that's not the experience for everybody. Some people breeze through law school. That's fine. I will tell you that when I was in law school, if I had to focus on anything other than law books, then I wouldn't have made it. I wouldn't be sitting here. This young lady, tell me how you managed 6 children in law school.
I'm one of the statistics where people, when they begin law school and they're married and have a family, that when they tell you, you know, that law school has to be your mistress, and that some marriages don't survive law school. I'm one of those people, that my marriage didn't survive law school. But I think the main thing that I knew is that I could get another husband. That's not the concern. So I really was focused on nothing but law school. And I don't say that to the shade or disrespect to my children, because they understood and they were on board with that. So I did have to forego some of my son's basketball games. I did have to forego some other extracurricular activities that my children had, but they enjoy the benefit of me having done that. I was never absent. I never spent one night away from them based on that. But I did have a plan. We did make extensive use of calendars. So when you buy your annual calendar that you may use for your practice now, I had one of those for the family. So I would take one with me, and we had one in the kitchen on the counter. So we always knew where we were supposed to be. So it required very, very strict planning. I'm not one of those people who got to the law school at 6 a.m. and stayed there until 10 p.m. I went to law school for the tutorials in the morning. I went for my classes. When the last class was over, I went home. I lived an hour away from the law school on top of everything else. So I still had to go home and prepare dinner. I still had to check homework, still had to do laundry, pay bills. I also had a parent who was ill, and a grandmother who lived next door to me who was ill at the time. So just to further complicate matters, I had some other issues that I was dealing with, being their guardian and their power of attorney, and their, you know, it was just so much to them at that time. It just really requires forensic focus. That you can't other things like television shows, like concerts. I had to miss some of my very best friends' weddings. Unfortunately, I had to miss some funerals because I had to focus on law school. In addition to that, I wasn't ever distracted by law review, moot court, the things that some people need to pad their resumes and to help them with the experience of being a lawyer. I knew that I had a certain skill set coming into law school, so I didn't focus on any of that. And that's it. They're great experiences to have, but I really just went in there for one thing, and that was to get that JD, to pass the bar, to go into private practice, so I could really get back to my regularly scheduled life and to my children. And I did that.
Oh my God. So what I gathered from what you said is, when you started law school, life didn't stop.
Oh, no.
Everything kept going simultaneously.
Yeah.
Everything that was going on, your kids were there, and they were all 6. I got 2, and I'm looking all over the place like this. You got 6 children, a family, people that, and so what I can get, everybody was depending on you before you were in law school, and even when you got in law school. And what you had to do was you had to prioritize those things because you had a laser focus. I've heard all the great ones say it's all about laser focus. Let me ask you this: How was your Did you hold up physically well while you were in law school? I mean, because this was a lot that was going on. How did you manage stress?
I wasn't in the gym quite as much as I am now. I find that the stress level is actually worse now in real practice. So I do go to the gym pretty frequently now, minimal 3 times a week, usually 4 to 5 times a week. So I didn't find that the stress was actually that high. I think about the first week of law school, I was able to kind of take a step back from it and see exactly what it was, and to make my plan even more finer tuned and understand what I had to do. I understood what the program was about and the fear factor that they inserted into that, and was able to really make sense of it pretty quickly. I don't say that as if it's easier to once you've done that, but once I can make sense of it, oh, this is what they're doing. Oh, I just kind of understood what the situation was. It made everything else. I was able to see all of the moving parts and really make something of it. I don't know if that makes any sense, but
it makes perfect sense.
I already had a program for that. I had been working that out for years. That wasn't new. The only thing that was new into this situation was that there was law school. There were professors. There was this different grading scale. There was this. I've been an avid reader, so the reading didn't bother me that much. I had a full-time job, so I was already coming from getting up every day, driving to Durham every day. The only thing that was different was really the rigor of going to these classes, and I had never experienced a 4-hour exam before, with the exception of the LSAT. So that was new. But you just really have to keep your focus and make sure that the minutia of law school and dealing with 20-somethings every day and their 20-something problems, boyfriend problems, girlfriend problems, my car, my mom, you're dealing with all of that, like that kind of thing. just being able to really stay focused and to communicate any issues that do pop up with your professors. So I was straight up with my professors about what I was experiencing at home, if anything happened with the children. Just been straight up with them. So it wasn't as horrible as it could have been perhaps for other people, but it wasn't that horrible for me.
And what are the ages and your names of your children?
Oh my goodness. So right now,
when you started law school?
Let me see. Okay, so that was in 10 years ago. So there must have been 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18. Christian, Ryan, Paige, Mecca, Nadia, Matthew. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. I spoke with the attorney Alicia Clinchco last week, and she was telling me that, oh, awesome. She's here tonight. Hey, how you doing? She was telling me that she went to law school at Temple, and there was probably about 3 to 4 to 5 African-American people in her school or in her year. Now, NCCU is a HBCU, a historically Black school. How is the demographic for the law school? What is the ethnic makeup?
I don't know the exact statistics on that, but if you just take a step out and look at the daytime, well, we have an evening program and we have a day program. Of course, I've been removed from it for a number of years, but I was fortunate enough to be there just last night for an event that they had. The day program systematically seems to have more African Americans there, and a younger class age, overall class age. The evening program that they have seems to have more non-people of color in there, and older people historically, because they're working people. So maybe people like myself, maybe I should have been in the evening program, but really it takes longer to do that. So I think that there are far more people of color in the daytime program. But if I had to guess, I would probably say maybe 85% African Americans and 15% other.
And is your percentage similar walking into the courtroom as it was in law school? When you walked out of law school and then you walked in the courtroom, were those racial dynamics, was it still 85% African American?
Defendants, it's about 95% defendants, people of color. In my county, I'm in Franklin County. I'm sorry. That's the truth. And that's not because we commit more crimes. That's not what it is. That's completely not what it is. But in Franklin County, I am the only female African-American attorney in the county. And if I went north of Franklin County and went to Warren County, we don't have a full-time attorney of color up there. If I go to the east in Nash County, there are a couple there. I think they have an African American DA, but full-time defense attorney, woman of color, not sure. Vance County, which is to my west, the county to my west, they do. They have several. Wake County, they have a significant number, but in Franklin County, it's just me. So I find myself having to be not only their attorney, but sometimes an aunt, a cousin, a family member, to give the perspective that the case requires. And sometimes to really use my experience as a woman of color when I speak to the DAs, when I speak to the judges, and say, hey, this is how, culturally, how things are different. I want you to understand where this particular client, why they did what they did, or why they're accused of doing it in that way, and why, it may not be something you're familiar with, but let me explain to you. So while I could be in Wake County or Durham County pushing paper, the presence is needed in Franklin County where I live. So that's why I'm there. But it looks completely different in the courtroom. The dynamics are completely different. And it's not unusual that a woman of color comes into our courtroom and they're mistaken for the client's mother. They're mistaken for the client, for the defendant. And it's absolutely disgusting in this day and age. It's disgusting.
Yeah. How do those discussions work when you're providing perspective about your client to the DA, the district attorney? How do they receive that information? Is it received? Is it totally, brushed off? Do you get a good reception?
I'm a person who, if people who know me know that I build rapport. I try to be genuine. I think I am genuine. I think that in this game, and I call it a game because of rules. You must understand that your professional reputation begins the day you stroll into law school. It doesn't begin when you pass the bar. It doesn't begin when you put your hand up and take the oath. It doesn't begin the day you open your practice or you get a good job. It starts the day that you begin your whole professional experience. And so the people that you end up interacting with as DAs and as judges are possibly people you went to law school with, are people who know people that you went to law school with, are people who know the professors that taught you in law school. So this is a very small community. And I say all that to say that your reputation generally will precede you. So if I'm coming and speaking to a DA about a client, I would expect, and it's been my experience, that my word is my bond. So if I tell you that a client is A, B, and C, I expect that you believe that. And it's been my experience that it's been believed. So if I'm articulating something to the court, it's my understanding. It's my understanding. It's what I'm offering, and I'm offering and proffering that because I believe it to be the truth. So, I don't make it a habit of telling things that are half truths or things that I haven't independently verified if they're verifiable. But I think that in general, if I'm stating something about my client, that they believe me, whether they accept it is a completely different story. But they tend to believe me. Whether we're talking about if a plea is good or bad, it will be accepted or rejected, if we're going to trial, if I think we have a good case, whatever the fact might be. But I absolutely positively work diligently for every client that I have. And there have been one or two that I didn't feel as good about, and I withdraw from those cases if I can't get my everything. And I do.
That piece. When you find yourself in a situation or a negotiation, and you specifically speak to the disadvantaged, what is usually said back to you? What does the DA say back to you when you explain why that young man was, whether he was selling drugs or whether she stole something? What do they say back? What are the words that they say back?
Generally, if we're having a conversation about a client, of course, it's case specific. So, I usually will have an idea of what I want to see happen in a case. Generally, trial is not always the best option. Certainly not for a misdemeanor. It may not be the best option. You want to try to work something out, give the person some conditional continuance or whatever it is. I think for the most part, the DAs are reasonable. And I really come to them in a manner that, I know you can be reasonable in this case. I know you've seen this 1,000 times before. Let me share with you how this client is different from other cases like this that you've heard. and I approach it from that perspective. So one thing I have to explain sometimes to clients is I don't want to just know about your case. I want to know about who you are. Because when I am your advocate, so when I go and speak to the DA and the judges about you, I need to know who you are so I can share that and see what we can do in your particular case. So when clients come, and they often do, well, my friend, he got the same charge and he got A, B, and C. Well, I don't know your friend. I want to know about you. I want to know about what we can do in this particular case. What do you want to see happen? What can I reasonably expect to happen in this case? Because I've done this a few hundred times before. And so I kind of take it from there. I may say to a DA, Madam DA, or, I know you've seen this before, but the reason that this particular client may have gone into Walmart and stolen a blanket is because his mother just died. His grandmother put him out. He doesn't know who his father is. He's sleeping, behind the garage where he used to live. And that's why he stole it. He's been put out of this place. So you need to understand who your clients are. That's number one. I can't tell you how many times I've stood before a judge and I've heard the magic phrase, tell me about your client. And I've seen lawyers completely freeze. They're doing the mannequin challenge, and then they're not trying to. So if you don't get an opportunity to know who your client is, you look like a fool. You need to know who they are so that you can give them the absolute best representation that you can. And not necessarily for them, but also for you. Also for you. Your reputation is really all you have in this game. That's all you've got. Is your good name. And my grandmother used to always tell me a great name is better than great riches. And I believe that.
I want to ask this next question, but it seemed like you arrived whenever you were born. But was there a moment in law practice that you felt like, yeah, I'm here, like, world, get ready? Is there a particular moment, or what was it just from the point that you decided you were going to law school that you always felt like this was absolutely for me? Or was it that star moment? Was that moment when you had a triple double in court? Can you give North Carolina's audience a little bit of touch of something that you did that you were even surprised yourself and you were like, yeah, I'm the best at this?
Well, I don't think that I'm the best at it. What I do is I'm constantly learning and I'm constantly watching. I watch when trials air and they run when they stream on WRAL. I watch those in my office. So I definitely need to grow. There's always room to know. There's always CLEs out there. There's always someone who knows more than you know. And I'll tell you, I'm never just enamored with lawyers who've been practicing longer. Some of the younger lawyers are pretty darn good too. So I learn from everyone, from every opportunity that there is. If I'm sitting in a courtroom and I have one case and my client's not there, or the officer isn't there, I'm learning, I'm watching, I'm observing. So I didn't talk until I was 5 years old. And so I watched people for the first 5 years of my life. I could talk. My mother said I just didn't talk. My sister spoke for me. I would point and she would articulate what it was that I wanted. So I have a habit of watching people very intently and learning habits, because humans are people of habit. And so I learned habits. There's not any one particular thing I've ever done where I feel like, oh, I got this. It certainly feels wonderful when you get a not guilty verdict. It feels even better when you get a not guilty verdict and you know your client is guilty. But I use it as a teaching moment for my client. Not necessarily like we celebrate because they got a not guilty verdict. I celebrate because we kind of made the system work in the way that it was supposed to work. But I do let them know that lightning's not going to strike here twice. So It's bittersweet. If I know that you're guilty, and many times I do, and they get a not guilty verdict, I let them know if a similar situation happens this way, please don't come to me. I'm not that girl. But what I want you to understand is you got a second chance. And sometimes that's what we need in order to make us understand that, now we have to straighten up. That was a fork in the road. You could have been in prison for 12 years, but now you're not. So I really just use a lot of what I do as a second chance or a learning opportunity. I try to talk to my clients as an aunt or a mom or a sister or just a good friend, So I'm not really of the opinion that I've arrived anywhere just yet, but I'm trying.
There's just so much to listen to you speak tonight, and I understand that there are some books out there that are coming out soon. Could you tell Northeastern North Carolina a little bit about the books that are coming out?
Well, there's several. Obviously, I'm a parent, so I've written a book or two about parenting some time ago. I haven't published them yet, but I have written them. And there's a couple in the works about the practice of law and just how much observation of people comes into practicing law, whether it's your client as a person, whether it's the judge or the DA, whether it's the officer. There are different body language cues that you can pick up on that will really help you to understand. One of the more important things that I learned early on is watching judges. Because if you're in district court or you're in district court and you're doing perhaps a bond motion, you should be paying attention to the fact finder. If you are in superior court trying a case with a jury of 12 and an alternate 1, you should be watching them for certain cues and clues as to when you've said enough, when you have their attention, when they're on your side, when you have more work to do. There are different cues that they give to you, and you have to pay attention to them. There's one judge in particular, when this particular judge has heard enough and made their decision, they remove their glasses. There's another judge who puts his hand on his head when he's made his decision. And these are judges. We all have our own particular district, but we have the same sorts of judges coming through, and you have to pay attention to that. So my first rule of advice for new lawyers is go sit in the courtroom where you're going to be practicing the most and watch the judges. Watch the judges. That's what I do. The other thing I do is superior court judges. We get the list of where they'll be all year. And you see who's coming to your district. The 6-month period before they come to your district, you should be wherever they are, watching them. That's what you should be doing. Because a good lawyer knows the law, a great lawyer knows the judge. And I don't mean you have to know them personally, but you need to know their proclivities. You need to know what ticks them off. And that can be very helpful in your client's case. But not only in your client's case, it can be self-serving also, because it can help you as an attorney to look like, you understand what's going on in the courtroom, because you knew that judge hated drug cases, or he hated DWIs, or he hated assault, whatever their particular platform is. So that's important. So the book has something to do with that.
And when are these books being released?
I don't want to put myself on the
Okay. But you will let me know.
Yeah, of course. 2008.
And I'm sure after we get off tonight, there's going to be a million people that want to know how to get in contact with you, whether it's for legal advice, they're going to come paying with a whole lot of money, or whether it's just to tag along and just see what the ride is all about. I know I'll be one of those. I'll be coming to Franklin County soon. Please let Northeastern North Carolina audience know how to get in contact with you.
The best way to get in touch with me is by calling the office, which is 919-340-0082. Certainly on Facebook, I have a professional page and a private page, personal page. I'm not opposed to giving my cell number out if you request it. I don't want to give it out in this form, but I do. Clients often have my cell number and they use it. I'm one of those attorneys who gives their cell numbers out. They can text me once they get that, but I do respond very quickly to the law office of Paris Branch-Ramadan on Facebook, on that page. So if you message me there with any questions, I'm certainly amenable to mentoring, to questions, to speaking to people personally. A lot of what I've done too is the people that I mentor, I give them a list of books I think they should have on the front end of their practice. I allow people to come into my office and see some of the documents and intake forms that I use. Checklists, I'm big on checklists, so I let them come in and do that. I take some of the newer lawyers with me to different counties. So I practice in a number of counties, and I just, whatever I can do to assist a new lawyer, I do it. I didn't really have that. I wish I did have that. So I do try to give more than what I received. I do have a couple of go-to people now who've been very, very good to me over the years. And when the time comes, I'll make sure that I'm very good to them back. But in the meantime, what I do is I try to reach back, certainly the North Carolina Central School of Law students and give them anything that I can give. So I love that school. I love what they do. I love that I can still go there and speak to my professors, and they still assist me with cases to this day. So if I have a civil matter or a criminal matter and I need some assistance, I always go to my professors first. When I win cases and it's based on what they taught me, I thank them for that. And in any way that I can give, I give. But they can call me 340-0082. I'm not just in Franklin County. I practice pretty much all over the state if the case requires it. Usually, I stay within the triangle, but there have been times I've gone to as far west as Jackson County and as far east as Dare County, where I just left. So just depends.
Great. At this particular point in time, I'm just going to let you close out. I'm going to put the big screen on you, And you can tell Northeastern North Carolina, encourage them, let them know to go for their dreams. I'm not going to come back over here. So after you finish, I'm going to close this video out. But just let everybody know to strive for their dreams.
Very good. Thank you. So people, if you have a dream, you have something that's just been on your heart to do, on your soul to do, and you know that that's what you really were born to do. That was your purpose. Actually, I'm pretty good at that too. So you can call me about that, even if it's not the law. Everybody's calling is not the law. But if it is, certainly don't hesitate. Go ahead and get that done. I tell people all the time, you know, I was 35 or so when I think, I'm not sure if I was quite 36, but at least 35 when I started law school. And I wasn't the oldest, I wasn't the youngest, but I was who I was. And I went in there to get something. I went in there to get a JD, not a MRS. So I did do that. And I would just advise that anyone who goes to law school goes in there with laser sharp focus and on just getting the JD and nothing more. Certainly you can call me if you have any questions about anything regarding the law or with fine-tuning your own plan about what you want to do with your life, but you can do it and you should do it.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
I hope you'll come back. I hope you'll come back with the book.
Oh, I will. It'll be soon. I'll get you one.
All right.
I'll bring it to you.
Thank you. No, I'm coming to get mine. I'm not waiting on it. The first day it drops, I'm driving wherever it is. If I got to drive to Amazon, to Google, wherever it is, I'm going to get that book.
Well,
I'm going to get it.
Come do that. That'll be good. That'll be good.
Thank you so much for joining us. And
So
ladies and gentlemen, make sure you share this link. And in a second, I have about 15 to 20 seconds. There's a friend of mine I've grown up with. He's a musician. His name is Titus Stepney, and he's blessed me with some of his music. And so I'm going to play a little bit of that as we go out tonight. But thank you guys for joining us. Also, his Facebook name is Titus Stepney. So make sure you add him and his music. Thank you.